you're going to want to do it because you'll start to get hope. You'll start to feel plugged in. And that's exactly what I get goosebumps just telling this story still to this day. It was so powerful because for me, that was the first day when I realized I can get out of my own way. It doesn't matter whether or not I want to do it or not. I just do it anyway, and I can get sober too. And the way it started was getting on my knees in the morning and saying, God, please help me stay sober today. And then at night, showing gratitude for helping me stay sober that day. I wish I would have given it a shot earlier, but I didn't. And that's okay. My journey is my journey, but this works, man. It truly works. And everyone is eligible. You just gotta do it.
Welcome to the Daily Reflection Podcast. On this show, we strive to provide inspiration through interviews with members of the recovery community through the lens of the Daily Reflection book. Each day a new passage, a new bit of inspiration. Your hosts are Michael L. and Lee M. We are not aligned with any 12-step program, but you will hear them mentioned throughout the course of an interview. Welcome to the show for February 17th. That voice you heard earlier, it was Cliff J. Frederick, Maryland. He's got a powerful story of recovery. He didn't get it right away, but he's on the right path. Really enjoyed this episode. I hope you do too. Before we get to Cliff, can I ask you to subscribe, leave a comment, give us a rating. Ratings help the podcast to be found by more listeners. Thanks everyone for your support. I hope you enjoy this episode. Good morning, Lee. How are you?
Good morning, Mike. I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you doing?
Doing great. It's February 17th. What do we have on the agenda today?
So today we have one of my home group members, Cliff J. from Frederick, Maryland, here to share with us on the Daily Reflection, The Love in Their Eyes.
Hey, Cliff. It's great to have you on the show. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. Good morning. It's great to be here.
So we start the show in the same way every day. We have the guest read the Daily Reflection. Do you have that handy? You want to get us started?
I absolutely do. I sure will. February 17th from the Daily Reflections, The Love in Their Eyes. Some of us won't believe in God, others can't, and still others who do believe that God exists have no faith whatever. He will perform this miracle. 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, page 25. It was the changes I saw in the new people who came into the fellowship that helped me lose my fear and change my negative attitude to a positive one. I could see the love in their eyes, and I was impressed by how much their one day at a time sobriety meant to them. They had looked squarely at step 2 and came to believe that a power greater than themselves was restoring them to sanity. That gave me faith in the fellowship and hope that it could work for me too. I found that God was a loving God, not that punishing God I feared before coming to AA. I also found that he had been with me during all of those times I had been in trouble before I came to AA. I know today that he was the one who led me to AA and that and that I am a miracle.
Wow, that's beautiful. How does this resonate with you, Cliff?
Man, so many different levels. I guess the piece that sticks out the most, initially is the part about how God was with me the entire time. My my story started when I was 18 years old. My AA story with my first DWI, and my sobriety date is at the age of 40. So that's 22 years of trying to get this thing, frankly, doing it my way, which didn't work. I have 4 DWIs. I have countless hospital visits, rehabs, and not even to mention the amount of times that unfortunately I got behind the wheel, and I didn't get caught. And not only was God looking out for me, but all the other people on the road, when I was frankly sick and suffering, thinking I was invincible. It's not going to happen to me again. And that really resonates with me the most. It's that he was there the entire time. Once I was ready to be willing to, some little grain of sand, be, this small willingness that I wasn't the general manager of the universe. um, uh, where frankly I was ready to put, God and the program in first position, and not my needs, wants, and desires, which, never worked. Um, so that sticks out the most. And then from there, this talks about the attraction of the program. So I see other people getting better, and I have like kind of a love hate relationship with that a little bit, in the sense that I saw all these other people getting better, and it did give me hope, and it let me know this program clearly works, but I just couldn't do it. And I know now it's just I wasn't willing to do it. I wasn't willing to put this program first. I wasn't willing to, work the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. I wasn't willing to get a sponsor, show up to meetings, all the things that, I need to do on a daily basis to stay sober. I was just trying to not drink. I was just trying not to get arrested. I was just, trying not to be the biggest POS in the world. But all of those things, when I was trying to control those situations, be a good father, be a good son, be a good husband, and that was my goal, I failed every time. I knew that because every time I came back in, I'd see the same people, and the same people that their sobriety date stayed the same, and they looked just that much better every time I came in, and I looked just that much worse probably more than that every time I came in. It let me know that this was always here, which was comforting. That was comforting to know that this existed. I unfortunately got to the point where I thought I was the constitutionally incapable of being honest with myself. That was me. I, of course, terminally unique. Where I know now, all that was my lack of willingness to work the program. And once I realized it was my lack of willingness to work the program, and once I was willing to do it, really, frankly, once it got bad enough for me, that's when everything changed.
So what happened to give you that willingness? I mean, that's often an extremely painful thing. What caused that for you?
I can tell you how it ended, but to speed through, 22 years of in and out, before I got to that point, it was a whole lot of nothing changed, so nothing changed. Meaning, the second marriage, I'm going to be a good husband. The second kid, I'm going to be a better father. The third kid, I'm going to be a better father. I'm going to get this new job, even though I got fired from the last one because, I was underperforming because I was drinking. I was seeking the wrong thing. I don't know if it's that the world teaches us, or my perception of the world was, I'm seeking things. I'm seeking, the white picket fence. I'm seeking the BMW. I'm seeking the beautiful wife and family that we can take pictures together, and everyone will think we're doing just fine. That was my goal. Not, let me seek a spiritual program, and if I do that and do it consistently, everything's going to be okay. And for me, toward the end, it was basically 3 years where I was more of a, weekend warrior, alcohol and then other substances as well. It turned into 4 days a week, turns into 5 days a week, turned into I couldn't function without it. All of the not yets came true, drinking at work, you name it, man. You name the not yets. And all of those. Rehab was a big one. When I went to rehab the first time, I was like, this is it. I'm done. I'm going to rehab. I'm 38 years old. I've never been to rehab before. This is going to be the end. And it wasn't. I had to go to 2 other rehabs after that. So I'll tell you a quick story of what happened in the third rehab. I was there, third rehab in 18 months, 40 years old. I've got 3 kids at home, and I'm in rehab. I basically don't have a job. I'm completely out of money. I mean, the scorecard read 0, as it says. Everything was 0. And at the recovery center, they brought in AA meetings, and a gentleman came in, and the meeting was on willingness. And this was just a really cool dude, very humble, 30 years sobriety, but but just, super humble. Not there's no ego in it. And so the meeting was on willingness, and this is exactly what I wanted to hear. And I went up to him afterwards and I said, that's what I lack, man. It's like I want the repercussions to stop, but I just it's like I'm not doing anything about it. I'm like just hoping that recovery just like seeps into me by showing up every once in a while, and it didn't. So what he said to me is, let me tell you a little story about willingness. And he said, all right, so on this particular day, your car is filthy. It's dirty as heck, and you really want it to be clean. And on that particular day, you feel like washing your car. So you go outside and spend an hour washing your car, and when it's done, you have a clean car. So your goal was achieved. That's what you wanted to do. And he said, 2 weeks from now, it's dirty again. And on that particular day, you also want a clean car, but you had no interest in washing your car. Zero. Like it's the last thing that you wanted to do. You had all these other things in the way that felt more important. But the bottom line is that you went and did it anyway. And the result is that you had a clean car. And so what he said to me is, Cliff, it doesn't matter whether or not you want to do it. You do it anyway. And you can stay sober too. And the coolest thing about it is that once you do it, you're going to want to do it, because you'll start to get hope. You'll start to feel plugged in. And that's exactly what I get goosebumps just telling this story still to this day. It was so powerful, because for me, that was the first day when I realized I can get out of my own way. It doesn't matter whether or not I want to do it or not. I just do it anyway, and I can get sober too.
So do you believe that you needed the right circumstances to be in place for that story to land with you in the way it did?
If there's one thing that I've adopted since getting sober this time, it's that I don't know a whole lot. and I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. And I'm comfortable with that answer today, in the sense that I don't know why. I do know it takes what it takes. I think I was really, really low. And so maybe it was a divine, that was supposed to happen. And if that's the answer, I'm cool with it, because I'm glad it happened. And the coolest thing about that whole thing is that, what they say in this program, you straighten out spiritually, which is what I did. I started seeking God right away in recovery. And the way it started was getting on my knees in the morning and saying, God, please help me stay sober today. And then at night, showing gratitude for helping me stay sober that day. And I think that was sort of the beginning to where maybe I was willing to open up my ears a little bit, to the point where then I heard what he said versus, I don't know, not listening, which is frankly what I did a lot. Or I'd listen in the moment, and then I'd always change my mind and then try to take my will back. The other big thing that that occurred to me in rehab is, there's a part I always wondered, what are we supposed to do with our will? I've got all this will, I thought will was like motivation, and I guess in some ways it is, but it says exactly in the big book what to do with our will. We channel it to growing a relationship with our higher power. And when that hit me, I was like, all right, I get it now. I get it. That's what I do with my will. And then you got to try it, and then some faith kind of comes in when cool stuff happens that didn't happen before. Like when you get in a bind, you don't choose to just pick up a bottle and down the whole thing of Jack Daniels. You actually like call another alcoholic, or go to a meeting, or talk about it with another man. Well, imagine that. And so cool stuff happens, man. And I don't try to explain it too much, because I'm okay not knowing the answers today. So
you're talking about coming to believe. Really, it's just what I hear you saying is show up, be willing, take the next right action, and watch how the magic happens. And that's how the faith starts to develop. Am I
yeah,
right?
exactly. It talks about seeing, step two. The daily reflection talks about seeing step two in people's eyes. You know what I mean? Seeing the light bulb come on. And I think that's what happened, man. I think the light bulb kind of came on where, it's like, all right, let's do this. Because I tell you what, I was out of answers. Not only my BS tank was on empty, because I had a big BS tank and I used it for 40 years. And anything came out, the truth, mostly not the truth. it's like I knew exactly what would get me what I wanted, and that was empty. It was done. And so I think I was willing to believe that this program worked. But I tell you, it's seeing. I probably started paying attention when I gave this, a good effort when I was 26 after my third DWI, um, and and that's when I really started to pay attention to people. And that's when I really, every time I came back in, when my what was on fire, I started to see the same people coming and looking good. Their skin was changing. A lot of the physical stuff, but that's what I was able to pay attention to at that point. And not only that, but every time I came back in, people remembered me. And then fortunately now, by staying sober for a little bit, I've had the ability, the fortunate opportunity to see that in sponsees, man, and that is cool. I just did a third step with a guy today, and that's powerful, man. I've been fortunate enough, again, I've only been sober a little under 2 years, and I've probably done 15 third steps with guys, and that's a fun experience, man. I probably what's the most fun is a couple days later, if that light bulb does come on, or it comes on at 2, that's real fun. So that's a whole different dynamic of this that I never thought I'd get in that position, man, because I couldn't do anything right. I was just gonna drink and just get worse. And this program has helped me, turn that around. Really, this program gave me hope.
So how has working the program changed your life? What's different now?
Well, I'm still alive, which is great. And I say that jokingly, but toward the end, I was going pretty hard, and I'm not in my 20s anymore. That hurt. It hurt. Not saying that's good to do when you're 20s, but it hurts a lot more in your 40s. But you know, I think initially, I felt a little different hope. And so what happened with me initially, right off the bat, is the biggest changes were I wasn't waking up with a hangover anymore. I was waking up clear headed. I was showing up, so some self esteem was starting to build. I was working the steps. I actually felt like a part of the group versus on the outskirts, which is what I had been every. I started sitting in the front. I wasn't sitting in the back anymore, ducking in and ducking out of the meeting. I sat right in the front, and tried to soak it in. And so confidence built, worked the steps. And honestly, my desire to drink was removed. I have no real cravings or desires to drink alcohol. Do I think about it sometimes? I see a Super Bowl commercial and there's all these people having fun. Yeah, it's like, that would be cool, but it's like, no, because I'd be in rehab in 3 days. Um, so that's been cool. And I've had kind of the tale of 2 years. Like my first year, it was all on the up and up and up and up. Everything was up, 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 up. And then, and Lee, I think you've heard this a little bit in our home group, but I was actually fired from my job in July, no, August. And I was fired from my job as a direct result of when coronavirus hit. I The only meeting I attended each week was my home group. And, it dwindled down. It went from every day to 4 to 3, and then I went to my home group twice a week. And I dwindled down to one sponsee that called me every 17 days. It became all about me. And about 4 months of that, I turned into quite a tyrant at work, where everything that I wanted to do was what we should do. And frankly, it was going well. It wasn't a performance firing; it was a tyrant firing, um, resulting in one day where I decided to tell the owner that we didn't need him anymore. And that's all it took to lose my job. And on that particular day, um, uh, the next morning I woke up to go for a run, because sometimes that's what I do when I need to relieve some stress. And I went to Starbucks and get a coffee, and I walked out of Starbucks, and I'm walking down the street back to my car. And I say to myself, maybe I'll just drink. And I said, nah, I'm not going to drink. And I said, well, maybe I'll just kill myself. And I was like, whoa, something's off kilter. You know what I mean? Because here I am sober, knowing that alcohol isn't an option, but I was so fearful that that became like an actual thought in my head. Was it an actual, real thing that was going to happen? No, but it came in my head. So from that day, I made the decision at that fork in the road that I'm going to get deeper into Alcoholics Anonymous. Been going to one or two meetings a day, and I actually sought sponsees. It's like I need to get sponsees, and so like this daily reflection says, um, getting in getting in deeper into the program and helping others um, has carried me through this entire time. And I say that like that's it. That's what's gotten me through being. So I never thought in a million years that being selfless, spending time doing something that doesn't directly impact my financial situation, I'll be okay. So the result of this is actually I just found out last week that I'm going to be okay. I got a new position, but it was 6 months of where I got more involved in the program, reworking the steps again, working with sponsees. I realized I had a ton more character defects that I hadn't quite given away yet that I needed to and was able to because I had this time. And I know that's a unique situation, but the bottom line is that if something happens in our life, we don't have to drink. We just talk about it and we work through it. So today, I gauge my success on happiness, and my happiness is a direct result of my selflessness and involvement in Alcoholics Anonymous. So I'm happy today, period. And I have that opportunity to remain happy on a daily basis by being selfless in this program and showing up no matter what.
What do you tell newcomers that come in that are just dazed and wounded from their time out there?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that I do is I actually, I set up a time to meet with them. And if we can't meet, then we just do it over Zoom or something like that. And some people right from the beginning are talkers and some aren't. But either way, I tell them my story. I tell them exactly what happened to me, and most all of the missteps, all of the using Cliff's will to try to fix my problem, that didn't work, and then ultimately kind of the story that I just told you about how did the light bulb go off, and it's basically that I really feel that if someone is willing enough to work this program, they can stay sober too. They don't have to wait until they lose everything. But again, I know everyone's story is their story, and so I tell them that story, and we start working the steps right away. And I ask them, "Hey, are you willing to start working the steps?" And we get started on the work. In the big book, it doesn't say you take 3 months with step one and then relax for a little while, and 3 months. We get right into it, and then I let the book do the work. I don't, I don't. This isn't. I didn't write this book. The good news is I can read it with them. I can give them tasks to do in the book that my sponsor had me do and his sponsor had him do, and gain a understanding of the steps, one by one, and hopefully find that relationship. My like my sponsor says, my goal is to take them through the steps so that they can gain a relationship with a higher power, and then so they can pass it on. So that's what I do, and the book tells us exactly how to do that. So that's all I do.
So often I see newcomers come in and they're in pain for the moment, but they don't necessarily have that gift of desperation that some of us need to. Look, some of this is hard. Working some of the steps can be extremely difficult. What do you tell someone that, well, maybe hasn't experienced enough pain to actually start to do the work?
I mean, the fact of the matter is, all I have is my experience, and I've done the same thing. So I'll tell him exactly what happened with me, and I do strongly believe that they don't have to do that. They don't have to do the same thing. You can choose to work the steps, and there's a possibility you'll stay sober before all of that happens. But what I know is I can't get anybody sober. I can't keep anybody sober. My main goal is letting them know that I am here for them today or when they're ready, to walk them through the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, just like I was. And they deserve to be happy, man. They deserve to feel, this fourth dimension stuff, whatever I have right now, where everything's going to be okay. Um, Earlier question was asked, and I didn't really touch on this, about how has Alcoholics Anonymous changed me. Um, I'm a super productive person now, and that's something that I think is worth mentioning. Um, I'm extremely productive, um, where in the past it was very intermittent. I was the king of inconsistency. Um, Everything was inconsistent, and now with all of that baggage, that I've been free of as the result of working the steps, I'm extremely productive, and that stuff in the past where I think about someone else frees me up for even more productivity. And I think that's important to note because um, it's not just about not drinking. I mean, it's very little about not drinking. Yes, we have to do that in order to begin to have some of the promises and things like that. But um, I can hold my head high. I hold my head high. Does that mean I'm perfect? Absolutely not. But in the book, it tells us we don't have to be perfect. I just want to keep getting better, and I do that. I keep getting better by helping other people. So, like I make it a point that when somebody, and I was always terrified to do this. Right in the beginning, of course, I have to work the steps. Where if someone's new, man, I just reach out to them because I know that that's look, it's like a selfish, unselfish program in the sense that I need to be selfish to continue to work with guys. I can't force anything on them, and I know that. Like I can't get somebody sober. I'm here for you. That's what I needed. So all the years when I was out there, ripping and running and getting miserable, and then I always knew I could come back, and this place was here. It just took what it took for me, and so I think love for me is what I knew was here when I was ready, and that's my goal to let you know my higher powers love shine through, and when they're ready they know that we're here and ready to help them out.
We don't like to get too far into the future, but what do you hope for the future, and how far ahead do you look?
It's funny. I just talked a little bit about this today. I had a guy call me that he actually he had a couple years sober and then relapsed, and his thing was that he never got truly plugged in, and he's doing it different now where he's running big decisions by people, which is great, because I know when I came in here my thinker was, in my whole life my thinker was all screwed up. So it was great to be able to bounce things off people, and one of the things that I said to him, because he was asking me, would this be a good decision, moving forward, and I said, well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it'd be a good decision, but I tell you what, I know that, and what I've learned is that I need to spend each day working on my sobriety. I looked at I needed to not drink one day at a time, and every time I tried to not drink one day at a time, I drank one day at a time. So the mental shift that happened was, no, it's not about not drinking. It's about doing the things on a daily basis to stay sober. So all I said to him is that, I know today I'm going to do the things on a daily basis to stay sober, and I'm pretty sure that tomorrow I'm going to do the same things. And that's about, frankly, as far as I look from a sobriety perspective. But of course, I have goals, but in keeping that mentality, that compartmentalized, sobriety part, where I know I got a couple days ahead of me that I'm looking at, I can shift to, what are my goals? It's like my life is a little complicated. Imagine that. I complicated my life being an alcoholic. Um, I've got a couple ex-wives. I've got 3 kids. I'm single now, and my goal is to be a good person to all of them. And I'll tell you what my goal is. And I almost forgot this. This is my goal. Um, you never know where important messages are going to come from, but when I'm plugged in, I hear things differently, and that's been another gift of this program. So Trevor Lawrence, quarterback, Clemson University, going to be the number 1 pick in the NFL this year, most likely. He is a religious guy, but obviously spiritual in some way. I'm not religious; I'm just spiritual. He, when asked in his sort of farewell to Clemson, he was asked, what do you want to be remembered by while you were at Clemson? Now, look, like this is the guy is the best quarterback in the country, 21 years old, 6'5", looks like a version of Zeus. He could have all the ego in the world. And what he said is that it was my goal when I came. It's like it was already a goal. It was my goal when I came to Clemson to be remembered by how I treated people. And I was like, holy cow, this guy who could have all the ego in the world wants to be remembered by how he treated people, not his teammates, not how many touchdowns he scored, not how many national championships they won, but how he treated people, people in the lunchroom, people in the, in the class, his professors. That's how he wanted to be remembered. And I was like, that's it. That's my goal. I want to be remembered for how I treat people. So my kids, ex-wives, some dude walking down the street, people in AA, that's it. That to me is gold. If I can be remembered for the most part, we're not perfect, for treating people well, everything else is going to work out.
Awesome. Best goal ever.
Yeah. So
as we wrap up, Cliff, is there anything else that you want our listeners to hear you tell us?
Oh gosh. Yeah. I mean, I don't think so. I think when you put me, when I'm asked that question, that might be when I start talking instead of God. So I should probably not answer the question. But thanks for the question. I mean, so let's be, for a second. I've been miserable. I've woken up. The four horsemen. Terror, bewilderment, et cetera, et cetera. Waking up. Is for the newcomer. You don't have to feel like that anymore. There is a solution. I felt that for a really long time. And my only suggestion, which, I'm sure, they'll hear from everyone, but it's just give it a shot. I wish I would have given it a shot earlier, but I didn't. And that's okay. My journey is my journey, but this works, man. It truly works. And everyone is eligible. You just got to do it.
Beautiful.
That's awesome. Amazing message of recovery. Thanks for joining us and sharing with us today, Cliff. We
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much to Cliff for joining us and sharing his experience, strength, and hope. Great story. If you want to join us online, you can find us at facebook.com/groups/Daily Reflection Podcast. We're over on Twitter @Daily Reflector. Remember to subscribe. You can find us on YouTube as well. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.